Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. An out-of-date Dynamite review. There's going to be a review of the January 27th edition of Dynamite. And it's Friday, and you guys are going to be getting two videos from me today. Of course, the Dynamite review, which you are seeing. And later on tonight, of course, the SmackDown review. So enjoy the double videos, guys, for today. So, but Dynamite, I watched the last hour on Wednesday night. Went back and rewatched the first hour today because during the first hour on Wednesday, I was working, so I got home and saw the last hour of the show. So, but overall, the show was awesome. The show was good. It was better than last week, which last week's show wasn't a good show. Wasn't terrible, but it wasn't a good show, Dynamite, last week, in my opinion. This week was much better. And on the show on Wednesday, we saw Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer. We had MJF and Jericho end up taking on the Varsity Blondes of Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. We saw Hangman and Page versus Ryan Nemeth. And we also saw Jungle Boy end up taking on Dax Harwood of FTR. Britt Baker was in action against Shanna. And the main event, we saw the Young Bucks and the Good Brothers take on the Dark Order. But overall, Dynamite was a good show this week. Next week will be Beach Break on Dynamite, which that is a show that I'm looking forward to next week. Won't be reviewing the show next Wednesday because I'll be working, so expect a Dynamite review of Beach Break next Friday. So I'll be reviewing that. But overall, let's get on with the Dynamite review. So Dynamite kicked off on Wednesday night with Eddie Kingston versus Lance Archer. And this was an awesome match. This was a good match from Archer and Kingston. Archer finally getting his hands on Eddie Kingston. It's been a long rivalry since the Casino Battle Royal. But we had Lance Archer end up coming out alongside Jake the Snake Roberts, of course. Archer then end up telling Jake Roberts to head to the back, to stay in the back, because he just wanted Eddie Kingston just one-on-one. He didn't really need Jake Roberts out there, and of course, I guess he didn't want Roberts to interfere, and so that's why Archer ended up sending Roberts to the back, maybe. So as soon as Archer ended up getting into the ring, Kingston ended up going right at Archer as the bell rang. Archer then delivered multiple back elbows to Eddie Kingston in the corner. Kingston moved out of the way, and he ended up kicking Lance Archer in his knee. And then Kingston ended up biting Lance Archer, which that was crazy. And Kingston was then, working over Lance Archer. Archer then ended up delivering a shoulder tackle to Kingston. And there was a point here where it was Archer in the ring, and he chokeslammed Kingston from the ring down to the apron. And Kingston's hip ended up hitting the ring apron, and he crashed out to the floor. But you heard that thud from the apron as soon as Kingston's hip ended up hitting it, which that was pretty brutal. How you heard that thud from Kingston's hip hitting the apron. So Lance Archer ended up getting out of the ring, and he had Kingston, and he ended up throwing Kingston's head into the camera, and then he ended up throwing Kingston into the timekeeper's table, and Kingston ended up getting back to the ring, and Lance Archer ended up delivering a splash on Kingston. And later on, we saw towards the end of the match, the Butcher and the Blade end up coming out. Butcher and the Blade end up beating up on Jake Roberts in the back. I guess they beat him up in the back because when they came out, Roberts was already looked like he got beat up by them. So then the Bunny ended up handing a knuckle duster to Eddie Kingston because the referee's back was turned and the referee didn't even see this. So Kingston ended up hitting Lance Archer with the knuckle duster, and Archer was knocked out. Kingston went for the cover, and the referee didn't see this. The referee didn't see Kingston use the knuckle duster on Archer. So Kingston ended up going for the cover. And there you go. He ended up winning the match. Eddie Kingston ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had the Butcher and the Blade. They ended up beating up Lance Archer. And, of course, the Bunny was shown slapping at Archer which was hilarious. So then the Butcher and the Blade end up holding up Lance Archer as Eddie Kingston end up hitting a spinning back fist to Archer. So that was basically that, though. But it's not over. In my opinion, it's not over between Kingston and Archer. I think they're going to have another match. But overall, this was an entertaining match. This was a good match right here with Kingston and Archer. So then we went to Moxley, Jon Moxley. He ended up cutting the promo. And he was saying that he was trying to figure out the situation between the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick, the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, and Kenny Omega. He ended up saying that, the Bucks and the Good Brothers, they're both friends with Kenny Omega. Moxley ended up saying that he doesn't think that it's going to work and that he feels like there's too much drama with the Elite. Moxley then ended up bringing in, of course, the Death Triangle and all the, of course, relationships that stem from them. Moxley ended up saying that he's a simple man and that in the business, there's only one person you could trust, and that is yourself. So Moxley ended up telling his partners, Pac and Ray Phoenix, to saddle up for their match at Beach Break against Omega, Gallows, and Anderson. So that was that. Pretty decent promo from Moxley there. So then we saw Sting and Darby Allin. They were in this random building. They were surrounded by a window with glass. So we had Sting end up saying that he didn't appreciate being called a hoodlum by Taz. And forgot to mention at Revolution, it's going to be Darby Allin and Sting taking on Ricky Starks and Brian Cage. So they're going to be having a street fight at Revolution come March 7th. So Darby Allin ended up saying that it doesn't matter in the streets if you are clean or dirty. It's all about survival. So Darby Allin ends up picking up his skateboard and he ended up throwing his skateboard through the window, cracked the glass. Darby Allin ended up saying that it's no different than Sting. So Sting has his baseball bat in hand, starts bashing the windows, shattering the glass of the windows. And Sting ended up saying that he agrees. He is a hoodlum. So he ended up agreeing with Taz, saying that, he's a hoodlum. So that was that. But it was pretty good little promo from Sting and Darby Allin. This match at Revolution, the street fight between Sting and Darby Allin and Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. It's going to be an awesome match. Really looking forward to seeing Sting and Darby Allin team up together. Sting being back in the ring, since his match with, when he was with WWE, the last time we saw Sting in the ring was when he was facing Seth Rollins. So this is going to be the first time in a while that Sting is going to have a match. So, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. I think it's an awesome pairing between Sting and Darby Allin. I knew it was going to happen. And then we had Jericho and MJF versus the Varsity Blondes, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. This was a pretty decent match here. The bell ended up ringing, and then MJF ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that after the match, he has to talk to Sammy Guevara. He has to talk to Sammy after the match. So then MJF turned his attention to Griff Garrison about him being Griff Garrison previously. So MJF ended up going on to say, well, I'm undefeated still. And then Garrison ended up dropping MJF with a punch. MJF ended up going out to the floor. And then he went back to the ring. So as soon as MJF got back to the ring, he got eaten a big boot from Griff Garrison. MJF ended up going out to the floor again for a breather. So he got back in the ring, and he was yelling at Griff Garrison saying, "Oh, you want some more? You want some more?" And then he tagged in Jericho. Jericho ended up coming in. Griff Garrison ended up tripping him. So Brian Pillman Jr. ended up delivering a chop, and he ended up going for a drop kick to Jericho, but Jericho ended up getting out of the way. So at the end of the match, Jericho and MJF end up winning. We had Jericho end up delivering the Judas Effect to Brian Pillman Jr. And then he delivered the Lion Salt, which he connected with on Pillman Jr. And then he went for the cover, Jericho. And then Jericho and MJF ended up winning the match. So that was that. But post-match, we saw MJF and Guevara. They were jawing at each other. And that was that. But overall, it was a decent match between these guys. Wasn't bad. So then we went to Pac. Pac cut a promo, and he was sending a message to Kenny Omega. He was saying Kenny Omega thinks he owns the business and that he is taking liberties. Pac then ended up calling Don Callis a clown. And he ended up saying that Kenny Omega is just manipulating people and attacking people from behind. So Pac ended up saying that next week at Beach Break, Kenny Omega is going to face the consequences of his actions. So little promo from SHAQ, Pac there. I almost said SHAQ, which I will get to right now. But like I said, pretty decent little promo from Pac. And then we went to SHAQ. SHAQ, who was on the AEW Awards that was held earlier before Dynamite went on the air. SHAQ ended up challenging CODY to a match at Revolution on March 7th. And I have the audio clip here from what he said, so you guys will hear what SHAQ had to say. It's 16 it's a 16-second little thing that Shaq said here, but I have to say it's really funny because all he just does, all Shaq does is say, "Oh, you little punk." He said it twice here, so I'll play the video here, let you all listen to it.
Cody Rhodes, you little punk. You want a battle? You just name the time and the date. I'll be there. You little punk with your little blonde hair. Look like a little girl. You want some of the Shaq Attack? Name the place. Matter of fact, let's do it in March. How about that?
Little punk. But yeah, so I guess this match is going to be taking place, with Shaq and Jade Cargill facing Cody. And this was originally supposed to be on hold because, Cody was, of course, teaming up with his wife, Brandy. But, of course, Brandy is now pregnant. She's having a child. And they said that they were going to put this on hold. But I guess, they don't want to put it on hold and they want to get this, over with. But do we really need Shaq in a match with Cody? I don't like it. I really don't. To me, having Shaq on AEW they're only doing it because of the NBA ratings, in my opinion. They want to get people to watch the NBA since Shaq is part of, part of the NBA on TNT. And it's going to bring more ratings to TNT. It's going to bring ratings for AEW and for the NBA. That's the reason why Shaq is being put on AEW or facing Cody at Revolution. That's all it is, in my opinion. So they played that little promo that I just played that you all heard here. And so after that was played, Tony Schiavone was in the ring. Tony Schiavone wanted to get answers from Cody after what Shaq said. So Cody and Arn Anderson came out. They ended up heading to the ring. Tony Schiavone ended up asking Cody what he has to say to Shaq and Jade Cargill. Cody ended up saying that he would keep it simple. Shaq and Jade versus Cody and Brandy. But he ended up saying, life happened. He ended up saying that, his lovely wife, Brandy, is now having a baby. And Cody ended up saying that he differs to his coach when he's not sure where to go. So Cody then turned to Arn on what he should be doing on Revolution. So Arn ended up telling Cody, it's about who is about to be a dad, and that's on the forefront of his brain. Arn ended up bringing up a date back in 1985. It was when he ended up saying that, when Arn Anderson ended up saying that Dusty ended up taking on Tully Blanchard. And then after that match, Dusty ended up flying on a plane across the country to see the birth of Cody. So Arn ended up saying that if he wants to do the show, he needs to do so with eyes wide open. And Arn ended up saying, Arn ended up bringing up Shaq's NBA career, how Shaq delivered 19 years, in his career there in the NBA. So he ended up saying, Arn Anderson ended up saying that he's sure Jade Cargill does the same thing when she comes into a room. So Arn ended up bringing out Red Velvet. So Red Velvet ended up heading into the ring, very serious looking Red Velvet. So Arn ended up saying that Red Velvet has got fire, just like Cody. So Red Velvet got on the mic. She ended up looking at the camera. She ended up saying that she's out here because she's tired of getting attacked and she's tired of seeing Brandy get disrespected by the coward, who she is referring to as, she's referring to Jade Cargill. So Red Velvet ended up saying that Cody would never put a hand on Jade. And she ended up saying that she's Red Velvet, and I will stir your bitch ass up, as what Red Velvet ended up saying. So Tony ended up saying that it sounds like the ball is in SHAQ and Jade's court. So that was that. So it looks like we might be getting this at Revolution. SHAQ and Jade Cargill versus Cody and Red Velvet. Red Velvet, of course, replacing Brandy. So that will possibly be happening at Revolution. So I'm like, if that match happens at Revolution, which SHAQ was like, oh yeah, let's do it in March. With that possibly being taking place, that's your bathroom break right there. That's your bathroom break for Revolution, in my opinion. I don't like that, we're getting this. We're having SHAQ there just to bring the ratings. But don't like it. So then we had Hangman Page versus Ryan Nemeth. Now, Ryan Nemeth, or Nemeth, I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He is Dolph Ziggler's brother. So he did pretty fine here in this match. I haven't seen him wrestle. I haven't seen one of his matches before. So he was pretty decent here. And this was a pretty decent match here. Match started off with Hangman ended up working on Nemeth's arm, went back and forth. Page ended up dropping Nemeth with a strike and stops Nemeth in the corner. Page ended up delivering a springboard clothesline, which sent Nemeth to the floor. We had Page end up delivering a splash, and they went back to the ring. Nemeth ended up hitting a drop kick on Hangman and Page. He then worked over Page's arm, and during all this, Matt Hardy ended up coming out. Matt Hardy ended up coming out to ringside, took a look at this match, and I'm like, why is Matt Hardy out here? When he's, of course, with Private Party. So Matt Hardy was looking to be clapping for Page. I think he was rooting for Page to win this match. Had his eye on Page, maybe. So Nemeth ended up delivering a neck breaker to Page. Page then ended up hitting some clotheslines on Nemeth, and then he delivered a spine buster. And then at the end of the match, we had Page winning. He delivered the buckshot lariat to Nemeth. So there you go. Hangman and Page ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Matt Hardy. He was clapping for Hangman and Page as Page ended up making his way to the ramp. Tony Schiavone ended up making his way to the ring to see what was going on. Matt Hardy ended up saying that he didn't want to create a scene and that he just wanted to be in Page's corner. He ended up going on to say that he's been watching over the last few months and that he's concerned about Page. Matt Hardy ended up saying that he knows how much Page loved Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and they burned him. Matt Hardy ended up knowing that the Dark Order has been coming after Page as well. He ended up saying that he doesn't want anything, and that he just wants Page to be happy, and that Page deserves that. Matt Hardy ended up saying that he's seen where Page dresses, and that he has a much bigger dressing room, and Page is more than welcome to go there instead. So Matt Hardy ended up heading off, and Paige was thinking it over. So I'm like, oh, is Matt Hardy going to have Paige be with him and Private Party? Are we going to be getting a stable here? A faction? We'll have to see. So, I think that's why Matt Hardy was out there. He probably is focusing on Paige and wanting Paige to join him and Private Party. I mean, that's my prediction. So then we went to Jungle Boy versus Dax Harwood. This was a good match here. This, in my opinion, was the match of the night. In my opinion. So the stipulation for this match was Luchasaurus had to be handcuffed to Tully Blanchard and Cash Wheeler. All three of them were handcuffed to make sure that they don't get involved in the match because they wanted to be one-on-one. You know, Jungle Boy and Dax Harwood wanted to be one-on-one. So we had Marco Stunt out there. He was still getting beat up by FTR because his arm was still taped up. And forgot to mention in last week's Dynamite review, I like that they added the song Tarzan Boy for Jungle Boy's entrance. I think it really fits him as, you know, he comes out. And, you know, it's a classic, you know, 80s song. I think it fits right with Jungle Boy. Love hearing Tarzan Boy. So the match got underway. We had Harwood end up delivering a shoulder tackle to Jungle Boy, but he ended up taking the drop kick. Tully and Cash Wheeler were trying to help, but they end up getting held back. Jungle Boy ended up sending Harwood back into the ring, and he ended up taking some strikes, some chops from Harwood, Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy ended up firing back with chops and taking more chops to the corner. And we saw Harwood end up delivering a suplex from the top onto Jungle Boy. And at the end of the match, we had Jungle Boy end up locking in the snare trap. I think that's how you pronounce it. And we had Harwood and, Wheeler and Tully Blanchard trying to help Harwood. But, that didn't happen. So we had Jungle Boy end up winning because Harwood ended up tapping out. So Jungle Boy ends up winning. Post-match, we had the handcuffs being removed from Tully Blanchard, Luchasaurus, and Cash Wheeler. Tully Blanchard ended up throwing powder into Luchasaurus' eyes. And Wheeler ended up dropping him. Wheeler then got into the ring, started beating up on Jungle Boy. Wheeler then ended up delivering a slingshot suplex to Jungle Boy. And Tully Blanchard then went to the top rope. Harwood and Wheeler, FTR, end up getting Luchasaurus. They end up delivering a spike pile driver on him. Luchasaurus was then handcuffed to the ropes from FTR. Harwood ends up having scissors. Harwood then ended up cutting off the horns to Luchasaurus' mask. And they went and they tried to cut Jungle Boy's hair. But Marco Stunt ended up running out, saving Jungle Boy from getting his hair cut off. So Marco Stunt ended up throwing a chair at FTR. SCU and Top Flight also come out to help. And so that was that. I think we're going to be seeing, another match with these guys. It's not this feud is not over. we're going to be seeing another match with these guys soon, in my opinion. So, but overall, it was a good match. It was, in my opinion, the best match of the night. Just Jungle Boy and Harwood just went all out and delivered. They both delivered. And then we went to Team Taz. Team Taz was outside of the Daily's place, and Taz was talking to Sting and Darby Allin about their upcoming street fight. So Team Taz then saw a merchandise table, and they were wondering where where their stuff is, where Team Taz's stuff is, because all that merchandise table had was shirts of Sting and Darby Allin. So Team Taz ended up beating up the merch guys there, ended up destroying the table. Ricky Starks ended up putting this one guy through the table. Brian Cage ended up launching another guy into a nearby trailer. So that was basically that. So Team Taz was pissed off because, of their merch not being there, and it was all just Sting and Darby Allin's, merchandise. Then we went to Britt Baker versus Shanna. This was a okay women's match here. Britt Baker took down Shanna for a little bit. She ended up escaping, and Shanna ended up getting Britt Baker's arm for a little bit. They went back and forth. Britt Baker ended up hitting a big elbow in the corner to Shanna, and then she tried to go into a hammerlock. Shanna then ended up delivering an arm drag and hit an enziguri to Britt Baker. We had Shanna end up trying to go for a drop kick, but Reba ended up distracting her. And at the end of the match, we had Britt Baker winning. She ended up locking in the lockjaw on Shanna. Shanna ended up tapping out. So there you go. Britt Baker ended up winning. Post-match, we had Britt Baker end up delivering a kick to the back of Shanna's head. And then she ended up delivering another kick to the head and applied the lockjaw again. Thunder Rosa's music ended up hitting. Thunder Rosa ended up running out because next week, of course, Thunder Rosa is going to be taking on Britt Baker. So Reba and Britt Baker end up running out of the ring, and Thunder Rosa was yelling at Britt Baker and Reba, and she went back to the ring to check on Shanna, and that was that. So Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa next week at Beach Break on Dynamite. Should be a pretty decent women's match between the both of them. So then we had MJF backstage. MJF wanted to talk with Sammy Guevara. MJF ended up telling Guevara that he didn't tell Wardlow to get involved in the match. MJF ended up saying that he docked Wardlow's pay and it won't ever happen again. So Guevara ended up doesn't believe in that. He ended up saying that everybody believes what he says, but not him. Sammy ended up saying that he sees exactly what MJF is up to. So MJF then ended up saying to Guevara if he's sure he wants to play it this way. And Guevara ended up replying to MJF saying, I'm not playing. So there you go. And then they went over what we're going to see next week on Dynamite at Beach Break. Of course, we're going to be seeing the wedding of Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian. Miro's the best man. Of course, you're going to have Chucky T, or Charles, as what Miro's calling him, as the butler. So we're going to be seeing that. We're going to be seeing the wedding. We're going to be seeing Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker, which that should be a decent match between the both of them. We're going to have a tag team battle royal. And the winners will face the tag team champions at Revolution. So the Young Bucks are in the Battle Royal, and if they win, they pick their opponents. So I like the sound of that. So, and then we're going to be seeing Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Moxley, Pac, and Rey Fenix. So, going to be a pretty good show next week on Beach Break. And then we're going to also have the Women's World Championship Eliminator Tournament, where it's going to be Serena Deeb, the NWA Women's World Champion, taking on Riho. It's been a long while since we've seen Riho. So that should be pretty entertaining there. So then we went backstage and we saw Dasha. She was talking with the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, and also the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick. Gallows ended up hyping up next week's match against Moxley, Phoenix, and Pac. And the Bucks end up saying that they are excited to team up as long as Don Callis isn't around. So Kenny Omega then showed up. Kenny Omega then ended up asking Matt if he's interrupting anything. Omega ended up telling them that they need to talk. Don Callis ended up showing up, had bandages all over the side of his face. And so Matt and Nick end up asking Don Callis what happened to him. And then Don Callis end up yelling up, "You assaulted me." So Callis and the Bucks start arguing. Kenny Omega end up coming in, tried to keep them separated. And that was pretty much basically that. And then we had the main event. The Young Bucks and the Good Brothers versus the Dark Order. Stu Grayson, Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver. Pretty good match here between these teams. We had Carl Anderson and Evil Uno start off the match. This, of course, was an 8-man tag. They went back and forth. It led to Silver and Gallows coming in. Gallows ended up looking down at John Silver. And Silver ended up throwing some shots to Gallows' face. Matt Jackson was able to come in, and as was Alex Reynolds. Reynolds ended up delivering a flying elbow and a drop kick. And we had the Dark Order end up getting knocked off the apron. We had the group do a 2-sweet in the middle of the ring, which of course is always awesome to see. Gallows was then continuing to beat up on Alex Reynolds. And at the end of the match, we had the Bucks and the Good Brothers win it. The Good Brothers end up delivering the Magic Killer to Evil Uno. Stu Grayson end up taking a Meltzer driver by the Bucks. And so the Bucks and the Good Brothers ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Matt Jackson end up getting on the mic. And he ended up saying that next week at Beach Break, whoever wins the Battle Royal gets a shot at the titles at Revolution. So Matt ended up also saying that him and Nick are also in the match, which means if they win, they get to pick their opponents. So Matt ended up saying that it could be anybody. And Matt then looks right at Gallows and Anderson. So they do, the 2-sweet. Phoenix ends up running out, hits a slingshot double drop kick to the Bucks. The Good Brothers end up hitting the Magic Killer to Phoenix. Moxley then runs out into the ring. He ends up clearing the ring out. Phoenix ends up delivering a flipping senton on Carl Anderson. Omega ends up running out with that boot, with his boot. And Omega then ran right into Moxley. Moxley ended up delivering the paradigm shift. And the way that Omega ended up selling that paradigm shift takeout was pretty cool. Because all it was, he was just frozen. And like his body was just up in the air. And then he just dropped. Which, that was crazy. So Moxley and Phoenix were in the ring. And that was basically how Dynamite went off the air. Well, overall, this was a very good Dynamite this week. This was a lot better than last week, which wasn't a very good show. But, we're on the road to Revolution. Next week is Beach Break. And Beach Break, like I said, shaped up to be a good show here. So anyways, that's it for my review of Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all later tonight for SmackDown. So until then, see you all later.